Hi there, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine show with the greatest cameraman in the business today, Sonny Hersh, and your host, Avi Meyers.
Thank you, Marty. Welcome to the Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hersh and myself. Dial us up on the World Wide Web at ntnm.org, where over 50,000 shows have been watched. Unbelievable. Thank you so much. We're really big on community policing here, is our guest, but we're not getting to our guest quite yet. That's caps24.org. Sonny, in his spare time, is the chairman of the District Advisory Committee of the 24th District, and also the beat rep for Beat 2413, Devon to Peterson, Kesey to Ridge. So you can get all the meetings for the neighborhood for Rogers Park, West Rogers Park, and a little bit of Edgewater by going to caps24.org. In other neighborhoods, dial 311. And they'll tell you where your local community policing meeting is. Coming up next week on our show, we've got Deputy Chief Bruce Rotner of Area 3 and Liz Vitale of the Rogers Park Community Council. It is a pleasure to have right now the Alderman of the 49th Ward, Alderman Joe Moore. Alderman, how you doing?
Good to be here.
First of all, thank you so much for coming, and we do appreciate.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, you too. All the best, and to all of you out there also. And Merry Kwanzaa. I hope you had a Merry Kwanzaa or whatever combination of Kwanzaa and Festivus and Christmas, and smoke them latkes if you're Jewish like me, and go from there. But in any event, you've definitely got one of the more happening neighborhoods going.
I sure do. It's a great neighborhood. There's always something going on. There's a lot of community involvement. It's one of the neighborhoods where CAPS works best because you have people who are actively participating in their neighborhood and taking ownership over it. It's great. It's a great neighborhood to represent.
No question about it. You know what? Why don't you give us the boundaries, just because they keep changing all the time? So.
Sure. I represent predominantly the Rogers Park community, but I do also include a little bit of the West Ridge community and a little bit of the Edgewater community. I am my northern boundary. I share a boundary with Evanston. I go as far north as Evanston. My eastern boundary is Lake Michigan. North of Toohey, I go to Western. South of Toohey, my western boundary is Ridge. And then on the southern end, it kind of zigs and zags, but basically I go as far south as Granville on the southern boundary of my ward. It's the 49th Ward.
49th Ward, and very good. What is there any single major issue now?
Development was and continues to be an issue. Of course, in the last few years, we've had a lot of development that's created some controversy and some concern, and one of our goals was to create a balanced development approach. Now, with the slowing economy and the economic recession we find ourselves in, that's pretty much slowed down. And in a way, it's kind of good because it gives us an opportunity to kind of take a breather, take stock of what we have. We've seen a lot of renovations of apartment buildings and a lot of new people moving into the neighborhood. But we also want to make sure that we maintain our neighborhood's diversity. And so this gives us an opportunity to take stock of what we have, maybe work with some not-for-profits and maybe some private developers to do a little bit of affordable housing so that when the next housing boom comes, we have more housing units that are immune from market forces so that we can continue to be home to people of all incomes.
Are people actually buying and selling property at all these days?
There is still property being bought and sold, but at a considerably slower rate than over the last few years.
And I can't imagine. I've seen some of the prices for the houses around here and things. I'd say the prices I've seen advertised are about 15-20% less than what I thought they would go for.
You know, but it's interesting. Even though the residential market is slow, we're still seeing a lot of new, exciting businesses opening up in Rogers Park in the 49th Ward. The Morse Theater just opened up recently. It's a wonderful venue. I encourage any of your listeners and viewers to go to the Morse Theater. It's on Morse Avenue, just east of the Red Line, the Morse L station. They spared no expense in renovating the building, and I've seen many performances there where the performers will say that this is their favorite Chicago venue because the acoustics are so good. And it's a small venue. It seats about 300 people, so you get to see some really good acts in a very small venue with excellent acoustics.
That's the kind of stuff, when I used to go to more concerts and stuff, I really enjoyed smaller things like the old Ivanhoe, where I actually saw Jack Bruce, the Cream bassist, with Billy Cobham on a Monday night for $5. Right. But that's really dating myself.
And the new coffee shop that's opened up on Morrison Greenview is doing really well, the Common Cup. That's become a real community mainstay. The Morseland, which is another live music venue and restaurant, is doing wonderfully, playing to capacity crowds. So the Morrison Glenwood Avenue area is really becoming sort of an arts and entertainment district. And while the residential development slowed down, you're seeing a lot of good restaurants and other commercial development occurring in the neighborhood. So it's really still a very exciting time to be in the 49th Ward and in Rogers Park.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, by the way, next week, Liz Vitale, who actually lives right near that area, was talking about it. And you know what, she was actually saying off the air that, all the talk people give of it being like, a horrid area. She said her windows are open, she works near there, she lives near there, and she was talking about what a really nice area it is.
Well, Liz Vitale is the executive director of the Rogers Park Community Council, one of the great community organizations in our neighborhood. And you're right, she lives in the neighborhood. If you look statistically, the 24th District, which includes the 49th Ward, continues to see a reduction in index crime and in serious crime. That's not to say we still don't have problems. That's not to say that we still shouldn't remain vigilant. But the neighborhood continues to move in the right direction and is compared to most areas of the city, is a very, very safe place to live.
Yeah, despite the crime going up, we just about, in some months we do lead the city in the most reduced crime.
Right. Now, citywide, that we have seen a spike in crime, an increase in crime, but fortunately, so far, knock on wood, we're continuing to see a reduction right in the 49th Ward area in the 24th Police District.
No, we're very happy to see that. Now, of course, we've got more changes than I even want to deal with the police lately.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we have a new police commander. He's doing, I just met with him a couple weeks ago.
David Sobchak.
Yes.
We wish you luck on the job.
And he has, I was very impressed with him. He has a lot of good ideas. I hear from others both within and outside the police department very good things about his street smarts and his overall intelligence and his willingness to try new innovative ways at making our streets safer. And one of the things we were talking about, probably right now the number one issue in my community, are some of the concerns surrounding Sullivan High School, particularly at dismissal time. Sullivan itself is not located in my ward, but it serves all the students who go to the local high school, go to Sullivan in my area.
Where exactly is Sullivan?
It's just south. It's on Bosworth, just south of Pratt Avenue. It's about a block and a half south of Pratt on Bosworth, which is about a block east of Ashland. So it's in Rogers Park.
That's part of Pat O'Connor's ward?
It's in the 40th Ward and Pat O'Connor's ward.
I didn't realize that.
Alderman O'Connor and I are working with the new commander, and we're going to be addressing some of the concerns we have with the principal and the local school council. The commander has some good, interesting, innovative ideas that will help address some of the neighborhood's concerns about some of the activity that occurs, particularly at dismissal time. One of them is staggered dismissal times, making sure that rather than letting all the kids out at one time, they let them out in shifts, so there's less kids out on the street at any one time.
I like that idea very much. School
uniforms. One of the comments I've heard from the previous commander, as well as this commander, is it's sometimes difficult for them that some of the youth that are causing most of the problems don't attend Sullivan. They're from, in fact, outside the area. And it would be a lot easier for the police to identify the non-Sullivan students from the Sullivan students if there's a uniform requirement for Sullivan high school students. So that's another thing we're going to ask the local school council and the principal to take a look at.
Now, does the union get involved with staggered starting times and things like that, or?
Well, those are all things that need to be worked out, but they do them at other schools. So this is something that that can be done. There just needs to be the will to do it.
Yeah, no, and I do think it makes a difference. I know. I'm a couple doors from Boone School over here, so I know that I can spot the uniforms this year. They're more recognizable, and it makes a difference. It does make things more peaceful and relaxed along those lines.
And there have been studies that show that school uniforms do create inside the school more of a sense of order and of discipline, and you really need to have a disciplined environment in order to enhance learning. So it's good. It's good for the kids, and it's good for the community, and I think it'll help the police do their job.
No, I think it sounds like a very good idea to me. So there's just been so many changes with community. I'm trying to get used to what's going on. I mean, Commander Koulouris, who I liked a lot, was here a very short time. What people have been telling me about Commander Sobchak is that I'm going to find him very straightforward. And they were comparing him in part to Dave Boggs, who's one of my favorite commanders of all time. And I hope that's true. And they also said he's a community guy.
We've been very fortunate in this area of the city to have a series of very good police commanders, beginning with Tom Byrne, who came on in the mid-'90s, who is now heads up the City of Chicago Department of Transportation and has been helping oversee some of the aspects of the Department of Streets and Sanitation as well. He was a police commander who really made community policing a success because he really made sure that the police officers in his district and under his command took community policing seriously. Commander Dave Boggs, you mentioned, did a great job. Commander Bruce Rotner, and Commander Koulouris, who was with us for a short time, but it really impressed people with his commitment to the community.
Yeah, and also I'll put it, even though he wasn't here long either because he got hurt, was Commander Weiberg. Actually, it was looking very promising.
Right.
But yeah, it's I'm not seeing the same office. So many of the rules have changed. I understand the city's in a budget crunch. But right now, at the CAPS meetings, we used to be able to have officers from all the different shifts. Right. We don't have that anymore. Some of the stuff, the citywide things sometimes are things I wonder about. It used to be that each and every single beat had their own separate community policing sergeant. Hi, Sean Rollinger. He was my sergeant before. Now John Delgado, who's a good guy, is the sergeant for all 9 beats. He represents all the beats. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, Delgado's a good person. Sean Rollinger's a good person.
They have made some budget cuts, and they're ones that I'm really concerned about too, because I think it is important to have officers from the different beats attend the beat meetings, because obviously crime does not just occur during one period of time during a day, and it's important that you have officers who work at the different shifts also hear from the community what their concerns are, and
it's also good for the community because sometimes if
Absolutely.
somebody's talking about an incident, the officer that actually took care of that incident was there,
and could speak to it, clear up any rumors, explain what they're, and from the first-hand experience, what they're doing to solve or address the problem. So that's something that hopefully once we get past this current budget crisis, we can, bring the other officers back. One of the reasons they were cut is, of course, they're trying to eliminate overtime, and if the officer isn't actually working at the time they attend the beat meeting, then they're entitled to overtime. So it was a way for the police department to cut back on overtime. I'm just concerned that it might be one of these penny-wise and pound-foolish approaches.
That's exactly the phrase I was about to use, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, penny-wise, dollar-foolish.
Penny-wise or dollar-foolish.
I guess you've got some British blood in there.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
Actually, I think
this is the Irish part of me, actually.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's cool. But you know what? I just think it's going to create problems down the road. I really do. And not to mention that, for instance, when Sergeant Kalani was my sector sergeant, who's now Lieutenant Kalani, and hey, Rob, great guy, a lot of terrific people who have been involved in this neighborhood throughout. There was a monthly meeting, and that wasn't him, that was everybody. There was a monthly meeting of all the officers, let's say, who patrol 24/12. And they all saw each other face to face. They were all there at the same time. They all shared the information. And I think it helped them to get to know each other better. I know from my standpoint also, when I could sit down with all of them, I learned a lot. And I just, the communication. I mean, there's no question that community policing has lessened crime, and you're one of course, the really early people who really championed community policing from day one.
Right. In the 24th District, thanks in large part to the efforts of my office in the community, 24th District was one of the first police districts in the city to attain a community policing prototype. And so as a result, I think we're a police district that's seen a great amount of success with community policing, probably more so than any other police district in the city.
No, there's no question about it. And you know what? Getting to know the officers and all the rest of it. Now I'm so confused because everybody keeps moving.
Right.
And you know.
Well, we have a new police superintendent, Jody Weiss, and I think he's still in the process of figuring out what his command structure is. I think now that he's learning more about the different personnel, and he's, making some of the final decisions on who is going to be his command personnel. So I think we're going to see a little bit more stability in the months ahead, as long as Superintendent Weiss is in charge.
Yeah, I hope so. Is there, what one of the officers was pointing out to me that the way the FBI does things, I mean, they do things thoroughly. An investigation could take years, as opposed to the approach that Chicago takes. I mean, I've never actually met the superintendent. Well, I don't even know what question I'm going to ask.
Well, maybe I'll ask you some questions.
Sure, absolutely. No. You know what? Let's. Is the budget, of course, which is past the parking meter situation and all that. Is there any of there were only 5 votes against the parking meters. I just, actually, I don't have a car. I'm much, I really can't get into it. I did have a car 2.5 years ago. I started walking. I lost about 40 pounds, and I just kept walking. So
that's good. Good for your health, and not to mention good for your pocketbook.
No, that's an understatement.
Cars cost a lot
of
money, and you'll mention a vote that it was a very, very, it wasn't an easy vote, and ultimately I felt that it was in the city's best interest, particularly given these very perilous economic times. I mean, the city has gone through a financial crisis, and it had to cut close to $500 million from its budget last year. We've seen a reduction in the quality of city services as a result. And what this long-term lease of the parking meters has done is to give the city about a little under $1.2 billion. Now, not all that money can be used to solve our budget crisis, but a chunk of it can, as well as helping in the long term safeguard the city from any future economic downturn. So I felt from a fiscal prudence point of view, it was important that we take advantage of this opportunity to really help right the city's fiscal ship and to prevent the need in the future to vote for more property tax increases or, heaven forbid, more sales tax increases. And so I think with this money, we can. It's still going to continue to be very difficult over the next few years because the economic forecasters are suggesting that the recession is going to last for a while, and we still are going to have to make some difficult budgetary decisions. But without that additional money, the decisions would have been even more. The cuts would have been even more draconian, and we may have been left with no option but to increase taxes. So we definitely want to avoid that and make any tax increase something of a last resort.
Yeah, I can't see the sales tax and the property tax are the sales tax in particular is maxed beyond belief. And the property tax, I got into a thing with Alderman Stone who kind of lectured me a little bit. I'm not the biggest fan of what's going on in Springfield. I mean, from any standpoint.
Who could be? It's, what's been going on in Springfield over the last few months has been, actually the last few years, has been absolutely abysmal. It is something that is embarrassing to anyone who's from this state.
Yeah, I always like Saturday Night Live. I don't like the whole thing, but I always like the skit in the beginning and the news. And I make sure my DVR tapes it every single week. I don't want to miss any of that. And what they had to date it a little bit from when we filmed, the last week when they had the whole thing about Blagojevich.
In the middle, yeah.
And the person who was
I think it was the last show of the 2008 year.
And the person playing Elizabeth Dole was saying, that would be an embarrassment. This is an embarrassment for Illinois. Well, not Illinois, but maybe every other state.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, with all the convictions and stuff going on,
I'm hopeful with the new leadership we have in place that we can begin to right the state's financial ship, and quite frankly, that the state can become engaged in helping Chicago and other cities solve some of their problems as well. Try to equalize education funding, try to provide the dollars we need to keep our mass transit system alive so people like you who don't have an automobile are able to get to work and get to the stores and to temple or church or what have you. And because right now we have a CTA that still has a financial shortfall.
And some of this stuff, I mean, what bothers me the most about things like this is they could provide, I mean, a solution could have been provided that would have pretty much taken care of this year after year.
Yeah, there was a real lost opportunity earlier in this decade, quite frankly, when Governor Blagojevich first took office. Where we could have really
You had a Democratic House, a Democratic Senate,
right.
a Democratic governor for
we
the
could have
first
done
time.
some things to reform our tax structure, reform the way we fund education, reform the way we fund mass transit, and instead we had government by paralysis. And I've just felt it's absolutely outrageous. And but as we move ahead with, we have a new leadership in the Illinois State Senate.
Yeah, it's going to be important. Two of the three components are.
And pretty soon some new leadership in the governor's seat. So, with that, we could maybe actually have a functioning government again at the state level.
The phrase I've been using of late is actually, I like to call what's going on in Springfield legalized corruption. I mean, these people have been writing the rules themselves.
Yeah. There's been legalized corruption, and then there's been good old-fashioned illegal corruption. But one of the things we have to do also is change our campaign finance laws so that
that's very important.
So that contractors who do business with the state can't contribute these huge sums of money to state elected officials.
I can look at almost anybody's D2 and the form that they file, the people running for office, and understand where somebody's support is coming from. I still miss people like Senator William Proxmire of Wisconsin, who actually ran campaigns some years on $1. He would spend $1 on his campaign, and you don't find that anymore. I mean,
it's very difficult to do these days. But
even people that are idealistic. I mean, I was looking at some of the congressional D2s. The amount of money that to raise. A congressperson needs to raise at least about $1.5 million during a 2-year term, and that's on the low end for a lot of these people.
That's correct. And leaving aside the influence that money could have on political decision making, just the fact that you're spending hours every day raising money rather than doing your job.
That's a big
public
financing
public financing would help solve a lot of that.
And I think that's very important. I was reading where the average Senate candidate in Illinois last time there was an election spent an average of $7.3 million for the seat. And if you think about $7.3 million being raised, somebody's going to want to get their $7.3 million and then some worth out of it, and that creates a lot of problems. By the way, one thing I do want to talk, one of the nice things about having Jewish Chicago and being in writing and all this stuff through the years, I can honestly say, well, first of all, I should in part thank Governor Blagojevich, which might sound a little weird, because for me he's going to be the gift that keeps on giving, because I've never backed him. I've never supported him. I warned people about him the very first time he ran for governor, even in the primary. I supported Gary Chico because of the help he gave for the with the educational situation in the neighborhood, even though I knew he had no chance to win. I felt like at least I should say thank you for for what he did for public schools over here. But I've basically got, with so many people, I'm not the I told you so type, but I've got a lifetime of them coming if I want to.
You told them so.
Yeah, I did, didn't I? Bad Avi. Shame on me. What do you want to talk about? Anything special that you want to bring up that I haven't brought up?
I think from the interest of the 49th Ward residents who are viewing the show,
and there's a lot of them. I mean, I just want to let people know that when we have you on the show, you are definitely one of the single most watched guests of all the guests we have on.
Well, that's because the people in my neighborhood like to be informed and like to know what's going on. I would encourage anyone who wants to keep up to date on what's going on in the neighborhood to subscribe to my electronic newsletter that I send out a couple times each week.
Which I get, by the way, and I like.
Which keeps you up to date on the latest news out of the 49th Ward. All you have to do is go to my website, ward49.com, and right at the bottom there, you can of the homepage, you can sign up to receive my newsletter. That's ward49.com.
And not even to mention the good green stuff you've been doing.
We've been doing a lot of initiatives to try to make the 49th Ward the greenest, most environmentally sustainable ward in the city, and in fact, the most sustainable community in the nation. That's our ultimate goal. And one of the things we're trying to do is encouraging all new developers to go through the city's green permitting process so that they have energy efficient building materials and things like green roofs and other things that make the building, that lower the carbon footprint of their new buildings. But to get back to what I wanted to talk about earlier, which is just want to let people know that our new fire station is about to open on Clark Street. It's been 4 years in the making, but it's going to be a brand new facility that will replace a fire station over on Greenleaf just east of Clark that was built when they were still pulling fire trucks with horses.
Really?
And really right just south of the fire station, also on Clark Street across from Toohey Park, will be home to the new the existing Chicago Math and Science Academy. They're located right now at the old St. Jerome School on Morse and Paulina. They've outgrown their spot, and they are purchasing the old Clark Mall site right across from
Oh, it used to be a community a million years ago.
Yes. Well, and
just north of Romanian kosher.
Yep, and a Zare store.
My favorite place
Ames,
in the 49th Ward, by the way.
And it's going to be home to a new high school that is they have their test scores just came out. They have the highest test scores of any of the charter schools in the city. So they're a very successful charter school, and we definitely wanted to keep them in the neighborhood. So I encouraged the owner of the Clark Mall site to negotiate with the school, and they were able to come up with a deal. And they're hoping that the school can open at their new location as soon as next September.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's some really good news for the community.
You can build a school that fast?
Apparently they think they can.
I mean, is this going to be like a regular-sized 700-800 kid public school, or?
Well, it's going to be a smaller school. I can't remember offhand what the current student population is, but I believe it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 to 300.
Oh, so it's small. Yeah,
it's a smaller
because
school.
We've got a new school we're closer to me that's on Whipple, but they're looking at 2 years before people actually.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, and we're trying
actually a year and a half. I'm sorry.
Taking some ambitious efforts to get the zoning approved so that they can pull the permits and begin construction, so that it could open next September, because they have outgrown their space at the St. Jerome School, and we want to continue to ensure that they're a success.
And I think that's really nice that, like something with academic excellence, that's the kind of thing that's definitely good for the community.
It's absolutely good for the community. It keeps families in the neighborhood. We've all known of friends or associates who felt that they had to leave the city when their kids became either school age or high school age. And now we have kept in Rogers Park a really high-quality high school, so that families don't feel like they either have to dip into their pockets to pay for a private school or move to the suburbs. They can continue to live in Rogers Park and send their kids to a quality high school to get a quality education.
Which I think is terrific. Well, Mickey's hands are starting to get a certain way, so if people want to contact you.
You can contact me through the web at ward49.com. You can also call me at my office. Our office number is 773-338-5796. That's 773-338-5796. And we're located at the corner of Jarvis and Greenview in the new revitalized Jarvis Square area, just east of the Jarvis L station. So please, if you have any service needs, or if you have a strong opinion about something that we're dealing with in the City Council, please don't hesitate to contact us. And again, to receive our electronic newsletter, please go to the website, ward49.com, and sign up to get the latest community information and news.
At this point, I want to thank very much Alderman Joe Moore. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. I want to thank my entire technical crew, Sonny Hersh. I want to thank Marty Levinson, too, just because I like Marty, and why not? Stay tuned. Next week, we'll have Deputy Chief Bruce Rotner together with Elizabeth Vittel. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.